So I will give you guys a basic introduction about ma'am. So ma'am name is like Smita Murthy. She is India representative for FSC 22000 and has been extensively working in the fields of quality and food safety with approximately having an experience of 20 years. She holds a master's degree in microbiology and spends over a decade auditing manufacturing units globally for the different companies. She has been actively a part of Coca-Cola company. All the best, ma'am.
Hello,
Yes,
hi.
ma'am.
This is Smita Murthy, and I'm really happy to be part of this Audigos Hub. And it's an interesting format to share and help others learn, and for me as well to grow with it. So, very brief introduction. I think he's already told you about me. Yes, I have a master's in microbiology. I worked initially at the National Institute of Virology. For about 5-6 years, I worked on hepatitis viruses, and that's my background. After doing work on virology, I got a chance to to Coca-Cola. They had just started the first plant in India, so I got an offer to work with them as a microbiologist. And after that, from 93 for 23 years, I worked with Coca-Cola. I was heading their my last role with Coca-Cola was heading their analytical services center. I was the director for the Eurasia Analytical Center, and I managed 33 countries from in my role. And before that, I worked with Coca-Cola in the Global Audit Organization, and I was managing audits in Asia, Eurasia, Europe, and Africa. All my experience has been mainly in food safety and the quality space. So I'm really happy to be able to share my learning, whatever I've learned with all of you. And as I understand from Krishna, you're all students from biotechnology backgrounds or food backgrounds, and this is an opportunity to share and learn with you. So the first course that I'm going to be trying out with Audigos is Principles of HACCP. And we are going to talk about HACCP. It's going to be a course that will be broken up over a couple of days so that everybody can pay attention and understand the HACCP really well. So as just a quick background on the course that I'm going to be teaching, HACCP or HACCP, as all of us probably know, it's hazard analysis and critical control point. It's the basis of all food safety in every food industry, and every food producer needs to understand and know HACCP. So what the course is going to be about, we'll figure out the dates and that it will start. I think Krishna will be in touch with you on that. But just just to give you just an overview, we will be talking about the principles of HACCP. We'll talk about how Codex also includes HACCP in it. We'll talk about how HACCP requirements apply to the food tree, how to use hazard analysis as a basis for establishing critical control points. And hazard analysis is really critical. It tells you how to understand risks, and this understanding how to rate risks and how to do a risk assessment is not only a basis of and a foundation of HACCP, but it will be useful to you in all other areas as well, where you need to understand and look at risk assessment. So we'll talk about risk assessment, we'll talk about specific hazards and risks in the food industry and what we need to look at it. We'll talk about how the principles of HACCP are laid out and how it makes logical sense to build your food safety system on it. We'll talk a bit about what operational controls mean, what critical control points mean. We'll touch briefly on ISO 22000 and how it's different from HACCP, and how ISO 22000 then becomes the basis for FSSC 22000 and a lot of other GFSI schemes. We'll talk a little bit about what GFSI means as well. And we'll talk about how to apply common sense and preventive controls in the manufacture of food. So this is how the layout of the HACCP training program is going to be. It's going to be comprehensive, and you'll get an understanding about food safety and about the basic principles, and which you can then build on to understand other things like ISO 22000, FSSC, a basic FSMS course. So that's the plan. And over to you, Krishna, to kind of explain the nuances of it. Okay, so like I said, for me, I'm a microbiologist. I started my career as a research assistant with the National Institute of Virology. You all probably all know NIV now because of the Corona crisis, where I worked. I got a chance to move into jump from pure research and virology into industry, and the experience with Coca-Cola has been in varied levels. That I started my work as hands-on working on the shop floor. So I was the only woman working on the shop floor in the first company-owned factory that Coca-Cola built in Pune, in Pirambood. And I started by, it was a steep learning curve. I started understanding how a food industry works in the first place. Like I said, I had a research background, never really worked with the industry. So it started with learning hands-on when the plant was being put up. So I worked for the first couple of years at the shop floor, doing basic microbiology, doing quality assurance, quality control, and food safety and hygiene. So that's where my grounding started. I also then, basis what I learned and plant in the production shop floor, I moved on to the corporate office, working with the Coca-Cola plants in India, trying to help them to upgrade knowledge on food safety, trying to help them understand ISO 9000 that time. So we were trying to work on ISO 9000 and food safety and Coca-Cola's own requirements. So I worked to try and get all the 60 odd plants in India certified to ISO and food safety. From there, I went on to the global organization, the Global Audit Organization. So I was reporting and working for Atlanta for the head office. And like I said, my role was to manage audits across 1,000 Coca-Cola companies in the globe. And I was responsible geographically to manage Africa, Eurasia, and Asia. And at a point in time, also Europe. So that is where I started really working with looking at 1,000 plants across the world, trying to understand food safety, trying to assess whether they meet requirements or not. So that's a little bit of the work that I did for Coca-Cola. I ultimately left the Global Audit Organization and moved into the analytical services. So I was managing the analyticals. There were just 6 laboratories in the world that Coca-Cola owned, and I was managing one of them for Eurasia and Africa. And I had a team of about 15 people working, doing analytical work, microbiology, chemistry, both. We were doing very detailed high-end work like pesticide analysis, water analysis. We were looking at ingredients and the finished product as well. So that is a little bit of my experience with Coca-Cola. If the question is, how do you get into Coca-Cola? Yes, mostly nowadays Coca-Cola doesn't recruit. I mean, there are no ads or things that come up usually. They do a lot of recruitments at the college level. So a lot of food technology colleges, whether it is CFTRI or whether it's NIFTEM, they have a tie-up with Coca-Cola, and there are on-campus interviews, and people from their last year degree course or post-graduation are usually picked up basis an interview by Coca-Cola. So that is what it is. I left Coca-Cola in 2018 to start my own work as an independent consultant, and I work part-time with FSSC, which is the Food Safety System Certification. It is one of the major food certification in the world, and based out of Netherlands. So I work for them, and it is based on an ISO 22000 principles. So I work with FSSC as their India representative. So that's a little bit of how it works. Coca-Cola is one of the biggest beverage company, as you know. It's not that food safety applies only in Coca-Cola. Every food industry now is going to be looking at food safety and HACCP, and they are going to have systems. And the COVID-19 crisis has made it even more critical than it has ever been before to make sure that food hygiene, GMP, all these good food safety practices are practiced by all companies, irrespective of the size. So that is a little bit more on this background, and that's why it's so super critical to understand how HACCP fits into all this and how you look at food safety and hygiene. So pre-COVID, post-COVID doesn't matter. Food hygiene is there to stay, and now it's going to be more important than ever before. Yeah.
Suppose if you are visiting any plant for audit, so how exactly is the procedure that went through? Just suppose if there is we're visiting any certain plant, maybe a small scale industry or maybe a bigger industry. So give us a basic insight, because I know a lot of our students don't have the idea about how exactly the auditing is done.
Okay. So so conventionally there are like two types of audits, just to make you understand. There is something called as unannounced audit. So an auditor is going to land up at your doorstep and check out on what you're doing. Or there is the conventional one where you announce a day and say, this is the day I'm coming, I will be auditing you. So usually audits that happen everywhere in the world are to a standard. So you have to have a specification or against some, you need to have requirements against which you can audit. You can't generally go and randomly audit a plant and make up things as you go. So you have to have a set requirement against which you are going to check the plant or the company. So usually these standards are agreed between the auditor and the company, that these are the standards I follow, and so you come and check me against it. So the audit is like like a finance audit as well. You have to have a set rule. You have to have the government norms or the state norms against which you go and say whether you meet those norms or no. And similarly, in the case of food safety, there are very specific food safety standards, whether it's ISO 22000, FSSC, BRC, or something as simple as the Codex HACCP. So these are all laid out procedures. So when a company approaches you for an audit, first you have to agree against which standard are you going to evaluate them. Once you agree on the standard, then you know what are the rules, you know the goalpost, you know against what rules you're going to play the game. So you can't randomly go and pick things up. So once you decide against what set criteria you're going to audit, you go, you will be doing a basic thing that you do is a quick document check before you land up at the plant. So there are big requirements that they should have done. For example, in HACCP, they should have a HACCP plan, they should have a HACCP team, they should have described what product they're producing. All these checks you do before you go to the plant. All these are called document review. You check whether all these basic things are in place. Then when you go to a plant, typically you will walk through the plant, walk through the process areas, look at the lines, look at what they are producing, actually see what they are saying they do and what they have written in their documents, whether they match or there's a complete mismatch on it. So this is how you start looking at things. As you start auditing processes, or as you're walking through processes, then you start looking at set requirements. For example, if you're producing Coca-Cola, let's say, and you're walking through a Coca-Cola line, then you know that you see what they're producing, pick up a couple of bottles, check for the specification whether the Coke that has been produced, that they actually meet requirements that the Coca-Cola company has set up or not. So that would be at a very basic level. Then you would look at, has something gone wrong in the past? So you'll go and look at the records and say, okay, on this day, it seems like your line was shutting off every 10 minutes, or there was a major breakdown, or lights had gone off and you seem to have manufactured much lesser than you usually do. So what happened when things went wrong? So what happened when there was no light, for example? Let's just say most factories run on generators, so that's not a real example, but let's say something went wrong, one of your major machine had a breakdown. So what happened to the product that was produced that day? Did it meet the requirements? Or what happened when that 3 hours down happened? What happened to the product that was there in the tank? What did you do to it? Did you drain it? Did you throw it? Did you treat it again to make it meet specifications? So you start following an audit trail. It's a bit like let's say being Sherlock Holmes. So you have to go looking for evidences of what went wrong, find out how they managed things when things went wrong. and how do you ensure in the end that whatever went out of the factory or whatever was produced did meet the specifications that had to be met or that was agreed upon. So it's a bit of playing detective, and it's a bit of trying to understand and piece together to get that confidence that whatever was made meets requirements or does not meet requirements. So that is a bit about how audits function. And then what doesn't meet becomes a non-conformance. What meets can be a best practice sometimes, or they meet, and then you kind of figure out how much they meet or how good they are or how bad they are, to put it in a sense. And then you kind of write up the report saying that this plant meets all the requirements, and so it's good, it's passed an audit, or they don't meet, or there are some major flaws with it, so it's a non-conformance, and therefore you're not meeting requirements and you need some corrective action to be done. And then the auditor's role is also to see whether the corrective actions are correct, whether they will address the problem that you've identified, and how good they have addressed it so that it does not reoccur. So which is called as the preventive action. So typically an audit follows this kind of a protocol.
At times we hear a lot about some, maybe for a beverage industry, there's some kind of rumor or that is created mostly by their competitor. So how the industry is going to, or how the industry has been, doing good about those rumors? Because at times we heard about like Coca-Cola has a, this particular preservative or added something, or maybe a particular food industry has having this particular, kind of rumors between the industry.
Let's just take your question. So if you're talking about the story that happened with Coca-Cola with the whole pesticide issue some years back, these things that come up, one thing you have to remember is most big companies are soft targets. Okay, so it's very easy to get the frontline newspaper because you're a big company. Okay, that's one part said. But if you come back to specific things like what happens when issues like this come up, most companies which have a good food safety system, for example, what happens with Coke or a Pepsi or a Kellogg's, is because they have a food safety system in place. They have a lot of documentation, they have a lot of records. So when a issue like a pesticide comes up, and when you have the law of the land or FSSAI or FDA or the local government, when they start questioning you, you have a lot of data, you have a lot of reports that you can go back and share it and say, look, this is what I've been doing. I've been doing a food safety system. I have a HACCP. I have done testing for my water, my finished product, whatever it may be, my carbon dioxide, my ingredients, color, whatever it is. And that brings in a lot of confidence, then saying that, okay, so it's not just done when this newspaper article came, but you have like 5 years worth of data to prove that you've been consistently checking and looking at things. And so there is probably no truth in this. So that is how most companies work, and that's also why it becomes critical to understand food safety and have all this work done. You don't wait for a crisis to happen. You have to be prepared, always thinking that people are going to drink and eat your product. It always has to be safe. It can't be safe on one day. It always has to meet that requirement. So again, that is one of the ways that Coca-Cola also handled their pesticide crisis. And for all of you who know it, it did happen 10 years back, and then Coca-Cola came back with a much bigger sale, much bigger volume. I mean, it did affect things for a bit, but everything bounced back, and you can kind of get back to it because you have a system in place, and you can prove it that, look, I've been testing it forever, so this is not true. So it's the same with whether you call Mondelez and Cadbury having issues with insects in their chocolate, which had become an issue sometime, or uh, any other, like there are big companies within US which have scandals with salmonella coming in. But if you have a system in place, you are prepared to manage it because you know that this is what I'm working against, and I just have data, testing, whatever I need to be able to go back and talk to the authorities and say we do meet requirements, and here and it's not today. I've been doing it for the last 10 years, for example.
The industry has evolved a lot. since the day maybe when you started working into the industry and the 15 or 20 years back, that the industry might be
Yeah.
some different thing. So ma'am, what will be the 3 tips that you want to give to the students?
My top tips, and this I have learned, by through it myself. What you learn in college is never enough. That's tip number one. You have to constantly have the curiosity, and I guess you guys are really luckier than we were in college. We didn't have so much access to the internet like now all of you have on your mobile phones and laptops and everything. Internet was a rarity for us. We were in college, but you are lucky there in that way. So what you learn in college and in the few hours that you go attend a lecture is never enough. Please keep that curiosity to learn more on your own. You have the whole world at your fingertips, literally, with your internet. You have to go and investigate, to go and read and learn. And there are lots of resources online, in fact, like what you guys are doing, to understand and know a little more. So first, a lot of curiosity you need to have. And if you say you want to join, say, a Coca-Cola, please make sure that you understand a lot more about Coca-Cola, about beverages. Try and read up on formulations. Try and read up on how R&D comes up with new formulas, how taste tests are done, for example, before you even ever get a chance to interview for a company like Coke. So first thing is curiosity, absolutely needed, whatever age, day, you need to have that curiosity to learn. Second things, attend a lot of, there are a lot of conferences that happen on food safety. That gives you an avenue to learn what is new and what's happening. A lot of it is now going to be all online. So try and attend these. There are like Bev Tech conferences which happen every year. It happened in Feb in Mumbai, but probably from next year it might be online as well. So those are opportunities for you. A lot of these are for students. It is free or really discounted prices. So try and find out the best conferences related to food safety, to R&D, to development in food industry, and try and attend that. That would be the second big thing. It also, the third is, and probably the most important, is networking. If you do get a chance and try and attend these events, you will also be able to network with people in the industry and put yourself across. So there's no magic wand to get into a great food company. You have to develop yourself personality wise, knowledge wise, and like I said, network and be curious. That's basically it. Those are the three big things that you would have to.
Suppose if a student who has just passed out from the college, so what should he prefer, a smaller industry or a bigger industry?
See, I think that's a lot of question, because if you pass out of college and you're looking for a job, work is work. So let's not get into that only MNCs, they pay you more, that's the best place to work. It's not like that. You have to find something that you like to work. Like for me, when I into a food industry, I was very clear, I can't work with anything to do with meat or poultry industry, for example, because I'm a vegetarian, and for me, I didn't want to work in a food industry that would process meat. That was very simple. So any other food industry would have done for me, not meat and meat products. So if you have a particular thing, you figure that out. You might all want to join Coke, but law of that everybody is not going to get in there. So never ever underestimate. Every job that you take up will give you experience. You will learn. It will probably become a stepping stone to reach the final place that you want to. So as long as it fits in what your principles are, probably you should go for it. Everything will be a learning, and it will help you network and get to that next level. Yeah.